You may have heard this story before because I've shared it a few times, but I want to create context for you because I'm going to speak into a topic that I'm going to hope you start taking more seriously, which is what I call freedom planning. But for me, this all started when I was 20 years old. So when I was 20 years old, I had this realization, and it's an uncommon realization for a 20-year-old young man, which is eventually I'm going to be a dad. And I knew it wasn't when I was 20 years old, and most young men aren't thinking about becoming a father unless they're about to become a father when they're 20 years old. But the reason I was even at that point in that frame of mind is that I was reflecting on my childhood. And if anybody were to ask me what's one word to define your childhood, I would have said it was loud. There was just nowhere for me to go for peace or solace. My parents went through a very intense divorce. It was an economic roller coaster. There was restraining orders. These are two wonderful humans, just not wonderful together. So it was a rather trying adolescence. So when I was 20, I realized that this was my point of demarcation. This was the point where I could start making conscious and intentional decisions that forever changed the life of my future children. And as I started sitting there and really introspecting, all of a sudden this word hit me, and the word was freedom. I don't recall ever even thinking or hearing that word until that very moment. And when it hit me, I'm like, okay, I gotta define this thing. Like, what is freedom? So there was 14 categories of freedom that emerged for me, from my health to my career, to my finances, to my relationships, to my spirituality. And I said I'd have to define each category if I'm gonna wanna understand what freedom actually is. So I spent the next 45 to 60 minutes just typing ferociously on my little laptop at that time. And after that 45 to 60 minutes, I had 10, 15 pages just typed out, defining every category of freedom. And I remember thinking to myself, well, let me just read what I wrote, because I wasn't even thinking. I was in this state of flow, and it was just flowing through me and pouring out of me. And I started reading what I wrote, and I realized in that moment, there's no one that I know that has this. And if I want what no one that I know has, I have to be willing to do what no one that I know has done. And for me, that was just immersing myself in entrepreneurship. But it's more than just immersing myself in entrepreneurship. It's immersing myself in a non-negotiable standard, which states freedom at all cost. I want to make sure this lands for you, because I find most people are living with captivity. That captivity could be their limiting beliefs. That captivity could be a terrible relationship. That captivity could be a dead-end career. That captivity could be the lack of finances. That captivity could be the fact that they're not taking care of themselves, so their health is holding them captive. But what that actually means is that you are permitting yourself, you are giving yourself the permission to not have what every human on planet Earth is offered, which is freedom. Freedom to think for yourself, freedom to choose, freedom to act, freedom to make things up, freedom to make things real. So freedom for me became non-negotiable at all costs. Whatever it takes, I will ensure that I can do what I want, when I want, as often as I want, and I will never say, can I? And I will only declare I can. And this video has nothing to do with me. And it has to do with you unlocking the shackles that have been holding you back from whatever you want in your life. And I don't even know what that is. But maybe you want more money, more time. Maybe you want a better relationship with your significant other. Maybe you want to pursue your dream and you've been held captive in this dead-end job for the past 10 years. Give yourself the permission to declare that at all cost, freedom is a freaking non-negotiable. It's not about having a board on the wall where you have pictures of cars and houses, and I love that. That's great. That's special. This is not allowing yourself to negotiate with your definition of freedom, whatever that may be. So I hope this lands for you, because when I was 20 years old, it landed for me. And I'm now 39 at the time of this recording. And for 19 freaking years, I have lived with a standard: freedom at all costs. I invite you to do the same.